A lot of people are waking up to the shenanigans and are unplugging from it in the different ways that they can. So I want this episode to be giving the keys on how we invest our focus that doubles down our investment in the illusion delusions of the 4D field, and then what kinds of things we can invest our focus in to liberate us out of the 4D field. And the 4D field is a very powerful field. It's energy, it's emotion, and it's time. Time is something that has been used to limit our consciousness in a very big way. Yes, linear time, not just ways of keeping time, but linear time itself. It's an energy, it's a frequency. And when our minds are captured by linear time, we are very easily controlled with narratives that have a lot of emotional charge. So I want to give little things out there, what does it look like to double down our investment in linear thinking and linear time? And then also, what do we invest our focus on to step out of linear time into true freedom in being a sovereign, multidimensional being here to live your purpose? Okay. And the energy of truth has a big, big part to play in doing that, and you fulfilling your purpose. So let's go over the kinds of lifestyle habits that keep our consciousness locked into 4D field consciousness. Okay, so the 4D traps. The biggest, most obvious one I already talked about. These are emotional narratives of injustice, emotional narratives that trigger a reason to fear or blame a person or group of people. Okay, now this is a energetic structure that is in our fourth dimensional field that is very, very powerful, and it has been used and abused for, I'm going to say, epochs and eons of time. Before we had social media, before we had the modern, I'm going to say the modern type of society, it was used through ceremony, through theater, but also ceremony, blood magic, other sorts of sorcery and shenanigans. A great movie that hides in plain sight how these beings that have been keepers of this 4D field, many people know them as the Anunnaki, and I'm not painting the Anunnaki as good, bad, right, or wrong. I'm just saying that they have strategies and techniques to influence humanity to take action in the direction that they want, that serves their agenda. And the movie that reveals this so clearly, so blatantly, is the 1981 version of Clash of the Titans. Now, I've talked about this before, and you guys can watch Clash of the Titans. I think it's for free on one of the video streaming platforms. Okay. And of course, you get to see all these characters in their super young form. But I just watched it a couple of days ago, so that's fresh in my mind. There's Tetha. All right, I can't remember the name of the goddess, but she says, I will make sure that all of my priests have dreams and omens, so they will enact a particular kind of curse on the princess. Okay, they will hold in place her will, which is to curse the princess. So, and there's other tells like this where they specifically talk about how they influence humans to have certain perspectives, to have certain ideas, and to take certain actions. And this was back in 1981, guys. This was hidden in plain sight, but this is exactly how it works. When you know how to use the magic of the 4D field, it is powerful. Human emotions are powerful. Okay. There's another thing that I was sent. I think it was it might have been an Instagram reel where the student came home and told their parents about an exercise they did in history class. And in what the teacher did, he says, okay, I'm going to whisper in everybody's ear, and I'm going to tell you if you're a normal person or if you're a witch. And no one knows. No one's going to know who I whispered what, whose ear I whispered what into. And then After he did that, he says, okay, now each of you guys form a group, form a community. And if any of you have a witch in your community, you're all going to be condemned. And of course, it brought out like, cliques happened, and there was people stayed in their tight knit group of, social people where they feel they could trust, which, cliques happen in school. And this kind of thing happened. And then when, towards the end of the exercise, when everybody was settled into their groups, and it turns out people got kind of mean, right? When people were all sorted out in their groups, he says, okay, the witches, raise your hand. And nobody raised their hand. And the students were convinced that people were lying. And they're all pointing fingers. Oh, this person's lying, that person's lying, la 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 la. And then the teacher spoke up and he said, well, in reality, guys, nobody's the witch. Okay. So he set up a narrative that everybody bought into, and then they played it out as if it were real. And then that's how it goes. That's how the manipulation goes. Emotional manipulation is very, very powerful, and it just creates chaos and confusion. And this is one of your signs of being manipulated: the chaos, the confusion, the anger, the blaming. Okay. And the powers that be, both in body, that have a biosuit, that are, walking around incarnated in this realm, and beings in the unseen realms. They know this magic very, very well and have been using it for a very long time. So emotional narratives that trigger injustice is a big one right now. Let's just take a look at our political climate since 2017, right? It's been going on hardcore for a while. And there's a lot of people who justify hating and blaming other people and other groups of people. And actually, I've experienced this. There are people who've expressed to me that I'm, they don't like me, or I'm not to be trusted because I'm white. It's like they just assume that I'm a certain kind of way without really getting to know me. There was this one gal, I remember I had an issue with the speeding thing. I don't like to speed. Well, I travel a lot, guys. So I hitting deer, hitting animals. I mean, getting into really sticky situations. I've learned my lesson about, driving with caution and really respecting life, and that chaos happens. I mean, I've almost died a few times in that setting. So I don't speed. I speed a little bit, but not like, I don't go like, 80 and a 55 or 50 and a 25. I'm cognizant of people's neighborhood and what, speeding traffic does to their quality of living, all this stuff. So I don't do that. But I was in a caravan following someone, and she was like a speed demon. And I just wasn't going to do it. And not only, I'm so glad I chose not to do it, because I looked behind me and I was like, gosh, I think this is a cop. And it turned out to be an undercover cop car that was behind me, so it was a good choice not to speed. So we arrive at our destination and I'm like, hey girl, I was like, I already asked you for not to, super speed going to this place. And the people in the car also said they didn't want her to speed. And she did anyway. And her first comment to me was like, what do you care? You're white. Like, what trouble are you going to get into because you're white? I'm like, everybody gets speeding tickets, people. It doesn't matter. Like, there's some kind of narrative fed in her mind that because I was a white girl in the country, I don't have problems, breaking the law or getting pulled over or whatever. And, I'm just here to dispel that completely. Everybody gets tickets. You drive in a way that is against the law, you will get pulled over. If you're lucky, you might get off with a warning. I haven't been let off on a warning in decades. Okay, I get tickets. And anyway, that's just an example of the kind of distortions that happen in people's minds when they have a narrative that they have a strong emotional attachment to, a strong emotional identity with. Okay, and this is something that pulls out aspects of us that are locked in a frame that we are absolutely sure we are right about. And that's the next piece. When you are absolutely positive that you are right and the other is wrong, you have taken the bait. You are now locked into a 4D construct. It's a construct. It's not just you and your emotions. There is a grid, a consciousness grid that you are literally weaving your energy into that is so powerful, like a rushing river of water, that it takes you away. And sciences talked about, social sciences have talked about the mob mentality. People do things they normally would not do when they're in the context of a mob. That is the result of the energy of the 4D field. It is really powerful. It will take over your solar plexus. It literally will take over your free will. Okay. So these are not little things, these are the really big, obvious things that I'm talking about, how it locks us in, and getting into things that maybe are not as obvious. All right, a piece in here is, this one's really simple. Not actually, most people would not put two and two together with this. It's pretty mundane. Trading time for money. Getting paid hourly for your work. I know. And most, not all, but most people think about getting paid hourly for their work. And that actually energetically traps your consciousness into that field, that 4D field. Now, those of you who are entrepreneurs, those of you that have taken any kind of coaching on how to level up and leverage your business, one of the very first things they talk to you about is no longer trading time for money. Instead, you are trading results for money. And if you achieve those results in a very short amount of time, good for you. And if it takes even longer amount of time, still good for you, because you are delivering your result. You're not promising to spend 8 hours on this and getting a result. So it has to, you see, there's when you lock it in time, your efficiency, your creativity, your brilliance doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're creative, you're brilliant, and you're effective, and you can get something done in 10 minutes that takes other people 2 hours, you get rewarded for that by the universe. The universe, Pachamama, Mother Nature, rewards intelligence, rewards creativity, rewards, what's that called? Spontaneity and being able to improvise. The natural world rewards that kind of skill. Hunters, great example, the hunter-prey. The better hunter you are, which more skills you have, the more successful you're going to be as a hunter. The more you're going to be able to provide for your pride, for your family, for your village. Okay. So this is not a new idea that I'm introducing. This is an old one. Okay. Another one is orientating the flow of your day to the clock. This seems rather obvious, but it's something that throws us off, because we are paying more attention to the linear clock and not to how we feel, what our body wants right now, what is needed in this moment. Okay. And a good example would be eating. You're eating because it's time to eat, not because you're hungry. You're waking up because your alarm clock says it's time to wake up. Okay, this is allowing the mechanisms of linear time dictate how you operate in the world, your circadian rhythms, your inspiration, your focus, all this stuff now is dictated by a clock instead of the natural flow of what is needed, what you want, what's desired in that moment. It disconnects us from our soul's desire, because we have to do our checklist, click, 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 right? And yes, we get a dopamine hit when we accomplish things like that, but it doesn't get us necessarily closer to our purpose. Okay. Now, I'm not to say routine does not have its value. It absolutely is valuable. Routine is part of our nature. Habits is part of how our system works. But developing habits according to your natural flow, okay, discipline according to your natural flow, that is very effective. And of course, it's a skill, like everything else, that we have to learn over time, and when I say time, over cycles, unfoldments. Another thing that we do that locks us into linear time and shuts down certain things within our throat is waking up into an alarm. Waking up to an alarm jars the system. Okay. So Now, I understand the practicality of that. I understand all of those. I understand why people do this. It's a necessity for a lot of people because a lot of people, the only peaceful, enjoyable time of their day requires, or is part of that, is staying up late at night, even though you need to wake up in the morning for something. I understand there's a trade-off to this, but that just feeds the disempowerment. That's a cycle that we get locked into, and it just feeds the disempowerment. It feeds the chaos and the disjointedness of our circadian rhythms, of our inner flow. Okay, so these things take time to recognize how it's affecting you, and then it takes really consistent, committed strategy to getting out of it. Now, I really lucked out in the sense that, I had a lifestyle for a very long time where I woke up because my babies were crying, woke up before I did. And there were times when I would wake up before my babies woke up, and there was no going to sleep. And this is how my day operated. It was according to the flow. And and there was times when my kids did go to school, and we had to do that cycle, but I wasn't happy. They weren't happy. It was when we got to go with our own flow did we feel much more at peace and at ease in the flow of our day. So we got to spend a lot of time at the park. We went, we just had fun. We had fun, enjoyed life, enjoyed nature. And that is another facet to stepping outside of time, is spending a significant amount of your time, tension, of focus in nature. Now, if you can be in nature, you are one of those lucky few. If you don't have a natural space, a nature space to visit, you can bring nature into your home. You can have plants. You can surround yourself with pictures of nature. You can intend to connect with the waters, connect with the trees energetically, because of this 4D field. It can actually serve to your benefit by using the field in that way. So there are lots of ways to address this. Disconnecting from your dreams. That is another thing that deeply affects our capacity to step outside of time. When we start dismissing and diminishing the subtle things that are happening inside of us, those are key cues for us to be listening to step into the energy of not only our inner truth and our purpose, but our flow. So when we are trained to ignore all that, then the lifelines we have to remind us of the infinite, to remind us of the existence that's not dictated by time. When we're disconnected from that, we quite literally go into a sinking ship with no life preserver or lifeboats. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot when we develop a lifestyle like this. All right. And then, when we spend a lot of time looking at synthetic light. This is another thing that will keep our minds trapped in the box of linear time. And this is really a problem right now because the blue light that's in our technology impacts our brain. It impacts our occipital lobe, which is the part of our brain that translates light into images. And this is a blue light that stimulates different hormonal responses in our brain. It literally changes our brain chemistry, and it's really difficult to get out of the groove of that. For example, we all know cell phones and other technology is addictive. People are addicted. Take someone's cell phone away, and it won't be long before the meltdown occurs. So I'm on the phone a lot too. So I can't say I can't say that I've successfully transcended it, but I definitely challenge it. I don't bring my phone with me sometimes when I leave. There's times where I purposely, mindfully shut it off, put it away from me, do something else. Right. So I repurpose my focus in other ways intentionally because I know how damaging the blue light is. Now, yes, there's blue light glasses, there's blue light blockers you can put on your screen, all very helpful. But still, it's the light is influencing our brain chemistry and reinforcing the walls of that invisible prison for our consciousness.